everybody. Welcome to Harmony Co-op's virtual education class series, and welcome to our wonderful community kitchen. We have a really exciting evening tonight, just in time for summer and this gorgeous weather. It might finally be spring this time, folks. It might really be it. And so in advance of that, we are going to learn how to make some homemade root beer. It is about the best thing you can do over the summer. You can make ice cream floats, you can sip it on your deck, you can impress everyone. And here to show us how to do that is Harmony Co-op's fantastic homebrewing instructor, Jeff Ness of Split Oak Farms. Give him a big hand, everybody. Yay!
Thank you. Thanks, Kate. So today, like we said, we're going to do a homemade root beer. So what we're going to be using is an extract. Extracts are super, super easy. You're going to really wonder how ridiculously easy this is and why you've never done it before. So what we're starting with is we're going to use the root beer extract. It's from LD Carlson. So this is the one that we carry here in Harmony. This is enough to do 4 gallons of root beer. So when you say 4 gallons of root beer, you're like, wow, that's a lot of root beer. That's about 45 bottles, of 12-ounce bottles of root beer. So that'll be enough to get you going. And hey, you know, you don't have to use the whole thing. This is 2 fluid ounces, so you can split that down into a half a fluid ounce per gallon and do half at a time, quarter at a time, or the whole thing and just be done with it all at once. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do half of it for today because it's quick and easy, and we're going to show you what's going on. So the first thing is the extract. The second thing is for mixing on all your root beers, you're going to want about a 1 pound per gallon mix on that. So if you're going to do the whole thing, it'd be 4 pounds. If you're going to do half of it, it'd be 2 pounds. And any population of all that. And then the yeast we're going to be using, we're using a Premier Blanc. The Premier Blanc, I'm using it for particular reasons because it's about temperature. If you use a regular champagne yeast, the champagne yeast are, they're made to ferment all the way down into temperatures like 39 degrees. So 39 degrees is what your refrigerator is. So by putting a root beer in to kill the yeast or deactivate the yeast, it won't work if it's a really low temperature fermenting yeast. So this one actually stops at about 59, which is well above what your refrigerator should run. Your refrigerators normally are around 34 to 42, I think, is the normal temperature on that. So this will stop once you put it into the refrigerator, and that's what you want. Because when you put yeast and sugar together, what do? They make carbonation, and that's what we want to do. So you're going to start with something that's flat, and you're going to get carbonation from that. And the last thing, okay, so that's it. And then you need water. So what we've done this before. We already boiled the water. So you want to boil the water. If you live in town, it kind of gets rid of the chlorine in it, and it helps it to not have that chlorine flavor or taint it in any way. So if you boil it first, you'll get rid of all of that. That flavor, aroma, whatever. If you got hard water, it's going to be a little bit harder unless you want to use some filtered water or spring water from Harmony or any other places that you get spring water from. So we got 2 gallons in here, and it's semi-lukewarm still right now. So we're going to add the sugar in first because the sugar is the hardest part. We want to get that all mixed up and dissolved in there so that there's no sugar left floating around on the bottom. Where did I grab my? Oh, I didn't grab my. You grab the spoon? Yes. It's hanging right. It's right back here. Sorry, I was gonna bring it out here, but yeah. So we're gonna pour this all in, and this has already been pre-weighed for 2 pounds since we're doing half of the batch. Get that all in there. I'm gonna get that over here, and then Kate's gonna bring me my spoon so I can stir it all up, and you can watch very exciting agitation going on. It's hanging.
Oh my God.
Yeah, see? This is the coolest place. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this has already been sanitized. You will want to use sanitizer too to clean everything before you start, which has already been done. We use this sanitizer, which is Easy Clean. Easy Clean, it's usually a normal mix is, I'm going to stir this at the same time so we can get 2 things done at once. It's 1 tablespoon per gallon of that. So you don't have to make a ton if you're only making like 1 or 2 gallons. And if you make 1 gallon, you can take that 1 gallon and then pour part of it into each bottle and then squish it around, let it sit. The contact time requirement is about 30 seconds per container. To call it sanitized, it's not sterilized, it's sanitized. So it doesn't kill everything. It's not harmful to the environment. You can put your hands in it. You can drink afterwards. It's something that you want it to drip dry as much as possible, but it doesn't have to be super dry to start with. And the only thing I've noticed is it cleans with oxygen, so it does dry your hands out a little bit if you use a lot of it and you're in it for a long time. So use some lotion afterwards, and then wash your hands when you're done too. Like I said, everything has already been sanitized, the bucket, the spoon, and all the bottles that we're going to be bottling. Yeah, this looks pretty good. So you'll notice with cane sugar, we started with the clear water. Now we got a little bit of the different color in here. When you use cane sugar, you're going to get a little bit of color with that. And if you use regular white beet sugar or bleached sugars, then it's going to be a clear. So, and that really doesn't make so much a difference with this particular extract because this extract is already, it has coloring in it. I think it's some kind of coloring additive that they put into it. So it's going to be dark anyway. You can use some of the other extracts that are out there for root beer. You might want to just double check to see how many gallons it would make before you start, because that'll give you a good idea of how much sugar that you need to add. So I think this looks pretty good. And if you use some of the other ones, some of the other extracts are clear. And when you're putting cane sugar in, you'll get a little bit of a tint, so it'll have a little bit of a color. And if you don't use cane sugar and you use your regular beet sugar that's been bleached, then it'll be clear. So that's a little bit of surprising sometimes when people say, "Oh, this is root beer and it's clear." They don't quite get it because everybody's been conditioned to think that it's supposed to be colored, but it doesn't always happen. All right, so this is looking like most of that sugar is already dissolved in here. So I don't know if everybody's probably made Kool-Aid out there, at least when you were a kid. I know I did. I made a lot of Kool-Aid. This is almost the same as easiness as that, except for 1 pound versus 1 cup. Okay, so that's the only difference. So I'm going to add the extract in here. Actually, it says shake well on it, so we're going to shake it a little bit, get it kind of mixed up, and then we're going to pour it in. Yep, and the extract has quite an extravagant smell of root beer. No joke. All right, so now you're going to see all the colors start to change here real nicely. You're going to get the smell that is totally root beer. All right. So you can do the yeast in 2 different ways. You can mix it up and add it into a warmed water and let it sit and start it essentially like you would for bread, or you can just pour this right in here. And the reason I pour it in there is because there's like a gazillion cells of yeast in here or spores in here, and they're gonna take. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour this in here, and then we're gonna stir it until they look like they're dissolved or gone from the surface at least. And then we're gonna go into the bottling process. So while we're looking at the bottling process, I wanna inform you of all the different ways that you can bottle this, right? So far, we've used an extract, some sugar, some water, yeast, and I have a big bucket and a spoon. So to do this real cheap like, you don't have to buy anything more than what you already have in your kitchen. If you want to go with this route, I would just get a funnel and something to scoop that out with, like a measuring cup or something like that you sanitized in the sanitizer, and then you can just scoop it out and funnel it into the bottles that you want. But for this, I want it to be a little bit nicer than that, and going kind of ghetto on it. And we're going to use this bottling bucket. So this bottling bucket has a nice little spigot right here, and you can turn this off and on which makes it so much easier when it comes to filling up bottles. Let me get this good stir here. So what I'm saying is you don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't need the bucket, but it is kind of a little bit nicer than sitting and pouring and scooping and pouring and scooping and pouring. Because I've done that before in my beginnings, you know, and you didn't want to have all the gear, you don't want to have a big commitment into it. And then I found out that I do 20 million other brewing things. So it's kind of nice that you have all the gear, so you just use it all, and then it's so much faster. So, like I said, we're talking about bottles that you can use. This is a regular like A&W bottle, a plastic one. You can use that. It's a screw top. It doesn't probably cost anything because you already drank the root beer or you got it from your buddy or whatever. So now you can refill it. So you need to sanitize it, clean it all out, and then put it in the sanitizer for 30 seconds, and it's ready to go. These are ones that I did a couple days ago. Or you can use, you know, like old beer bottles, the big 22 ones, or like a 12-ounce one. You know, I'm not putting brands out there, but it is kind of funny that you can put it in all different shapes, not just the standard one. And you can also use your swing tops. The swing tops are nice because if it gets a little bit overpressured, you can kind of open it slowly and let some of that excess carbonation off. Whereas if you just pop the top on one of those beer ones, if it's really explosive, you're going to feel it all over. And it is really funny and humorous to watch somebody try to drink those and then it's all foaming up and shooting out their nose like a dragon. But it's not funny if it's you. So it'd be cool to just make it and then give it to people and then watch them do that, but they probably wouldn't think that you're a friend anymore after that. So those are options for bottling. So we're going to probably use some of these swing tops here. And I have okay, here they are. Some other just regular beer bottles. And then there's some of these champagne punted bottles that are kind of fun too because they're made for high pressure and they still have the regular crush top on the top. So you can mix it all up, especially if you're going to sit down and you're going to have 3 root beers, right? With your friends, there's 3 of you, well, then get a big one because then that's pretty much like 3 root beers worth, you know, instead of having to use 3 caps. So this way we're kind of saving you a little bit, and you know, you do it with friends, and it's more enjoyable when you pull out something really big and you're like, whoa, what's that? Instead of something little tiny, you're like, here's yours, here's yours, here's yours. So it's a great way to show off what you've been doing in or after the pandemic, right? And like Dave said, it's the summertime now, so get out and, you know, show off some of these great skills that you've learned, even if it's right now. All right, so we got everything mixed up. We're going to pour it into the big bucket here. Set this over here. I think I got that shut. Just like professional cooking shows, you just set it down somewhere off to the side. Somebody has to grab it the wrong way and wash it real quick. So what we've also done is when we talked about capping, we have a bunch of beer caps that you can buy here at Harmony or any other brewing stores. And these caps just go crumped right on with your cap crimper. So this, I don't remember how much it costs. I think it's about 15, 18, maybe 20 bucks or so. And this lets you cap onto any of the the capping type bottles. Whereas your swing tops, they don't need any of that. Everything is done manually, good old fashioned, and it's done. So we're going to show you both. Let me go ahead and fill up a couple of these bottles. So what you want to do is you want to get, since the yeast is all mixed in there, it's going to be mixed and it's going to be in, hopefully stirred up enough so it doesn't concentrate in one particular bottle or the other. And that's the time when you want to get it all mixed up. So can you still see me here a little bit? I'll put this over here. How's that?
Yep.
Okay. Now, can you see all the way down there? Okay.
There we go.
Ah, perfect. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to fill these up. And when you fill them up, you're going to want to get filled within ½ inch to an inch from the very top of the bottle. This way you don't have too much space in there. Because you don't want too much space because if too much air gets in there and it kind of offs the flavor a little bit. So as we said, we're going to take the cap, set that on. Boom, your swing top is done. So what we'll do after this, after we get all these bottled up, is I'll just take a picture there. I gotta do another one like this so we can show Captain. So we're gonna do a regular beer bottle also, and these you can buy here too. The ones that you get here are a little stronger. They're made for more pressure. If you use like a used beer bottle from one of your buddies, make sure you clean it out really good first because people do awful things with their beer bottles when they're done. And they're not as thick, so they're not as heavy built. So they might not handle the pressure. If you end up over pressurizing them, they could blow up. So, and I've had that happen. I've tested these theories, and that does happen. So these ones are a little bit harder to see because it's a big bottle and it's dark stuff that we're putting into it. So I have to concentrate pretty hard to see this. All right. This stuff looks good, smells good. So, like I said, when we get ready and have all these bottled up, there we go. So, all right, here we go. I'm still in the view here. So with this capper, step a little bit closer here. This capper is made so the cap fits right in here. You're going to stick it on top of the bottle, and then it's going to come down. And it's going to grab the shoulders with this this silver part here, and then it's going to press on top of the cap and crimp around it, so it actually crimps your cap onto the bottle, just like you would get it from any of the breweries or whatever. So I like to shake off a little bit of it. I usually leave them in sanitizer because then they're right here, and then if you drop one, then you can just, all right, shake it off, clean it, and then throw it back on the sanitizer and let it sit for 30 seconds. So we got this on top. We're going to bend this down. It's going to grab the shoulders. This doesn't take a whole lot of energy to pop down, but it snaps down. It's in place. You want to test it, you're going to hold it upside down. You're going to look, see if there's any spots in there where it's coming out. If it's coming out, then the cap didn't seal, and you probably want to take it out and put a new one on, or you can try to re-seal it again. So we got a swing top that's swing top and closed. We got a cap that's closed. Now we're going to do the champagne bottle. So the champagne bottle is a little more finicky because right up here around the neck, it's not as easily built to be doing this, but you can still do it, and I've done it plenty of times. As we get it on there. All right, there we go. See, that sticks a little bit. There we are. All right, so we'll flip it upside down. We're good to go. It's not leaking. So once these are like this, we're going to consider carbonating it. So when you have to carbonate it, you want to put it into an environment that the yeast can grow. So as we talked earlier about the yeast and the temperatures that they grow in, this particular yeast grows right around 59 degrees to, I think it's 86. So put it in the sweet spot in between 60 and 70, which is normally what people have their houses set at for regular living temperatures. So put it somewhere out of the light, but in the heat of the room, and leave it there for about 3 days. And after 3 days, you might want to check them. So if you have one of the plastic ones, you can kind of squeeze on it. You can tell, wow, that's really carbonated or not really carbonated. So it's good to have one just as your test guide that you stuff in there. So it gives you an idea. Otherwise, you can do this old thing, and if you got swing tops, you can kind of crack it open a little bit and see if there's enough carbonation in there. And if it's not a lot, then just close it back up and let it sit for another day, and then check it the next day. So I won't leave it in there for anything more than 6 days, because that's kind of a lot of days, and you're going to get a lot of explosions. So at 6 days or before, and I would really consider them between 3 to 5, take those out and put them into the freezer, or not the freezer, the refrigerator, or a place that's going to keep it below the temperature of what the yeast grow at. So you basically want to put them in remission and go to sleep, and now you have a carbonated drink that you're ready to have whenever you want. root beers, I've noticed, I mean, you can drink them up to 6 months, but it's not quite as good. So I would try to use it all within about a month or so. And that's why maybe only doing a gallon at a time or 2 gallons at a time would be a better option, because there's an off flavor. And you also might consider, like when you put yeast and sugar together, the off turn is alcohol. So I did a test on that, and it really came out to, after about 3 days, there was 0 alcohol produced that I could test for. 4 days, there was 0.26% of 8%, so 0.26%. At 5 days, it was the same at 0.26. At 6 days, it was still the same at 0.26. And at 7 days, it was 0.77. So, and my notes on that one was explosive fizz. So that's probably the point where you're not going to enjoy it anyway. So don't let it sit for 7 days. Stick with it in between 3 to 5. And the next part was kombucha. If you buy kombucha from the store and you drink kombucha, you say, oh my God, alcohol, oh, I worry about it. Well, kombucha can be sold at any store at up to 0.5% of alcohol in it, and it's legal for anybody to buy. It doesn't matter your age. So this isn't going to cause any kind of problems when you look at how much alcohol production there is. And if you actually try to make it into hard root beer, it's awful. I've done it. It didn't turn out good. It turned out really, really disgusting with a bad flavor. And it was pretty much, to my opinion, undrinkable, so I didn't. Let's see. We're using bottles, we covered that. Sanitizer, we covered that. We got some bottles that we covered crimping. And then, so when after you wash your bottles, I found this to be a very handy piece of equipment. It's just something that holds your bottles upside down and lets them drip dry out. That works really good. Or if you just want to take a piece of plywood and drill a bunch of 1.5-inch holes and then put it on a stand, you can use that too. It's super, super easy. And I think I used to use like a 1x6 before, a long time ago when I started brewing. I'd put it on there, dump your sanitizer, then let it sit, drip dry, and you're done and you're ready to go. I'm looking for anything that I left out, and I think that's the whole process of making root beer at home. Remember, 3 to 5 days, and put it into the refrigerator where it can stay cold. Because if it comes back to regular temperature, into the 60s or above 59, those yeasts come back to life, and they keep working on the sugar there. And when that happens, you're going to have not an exciting day, you're going to have an explosive day. And that's not what you want. So here's to making your own root beer at home. And pop, here's to you. I guess I can drink it, right?
Yeah, you can drink it.
Here, you got a cup, and then we can share. Then we can look together.
I have a coffee.
That looks good.
Yeah, it does.
It's just like the cooking shows, and afterwards they just sit around and eat. Cheers and happy brewing.
Cheers.
That's nice.
Delicious. Well, thank you very much, Jeff.
Well, you're welcome. And hope to see you guys back in real cooking classes soon.
Yep, we are hoping to be able to do that possibly this fall, but we will see. Thank you all for joining us at Harmony Co-op with all of our virtual cooking classes, and we will see you next time. Yay!